Hey guys, if you click that link today, you're wanting to hear all about the differences of buying versus renting here in the greater Colorado Springs area and Woodland Park. So make sure you stay tuned to the end because I'm going to give you lots of valuable information that you need to think about when you're considering between the two. So I'll see you in a bit. Hey guys, it's James C with James E Mountain Real Estate, and I'm one of your top agents out here in the greater Colorado Springs area. Right here, living in the Woodland Park and the Colorado Springs area. I've been here for a long time, and if you want to know everything there is about where to go hang out, activities to do, places to go eat, where to live, what neighborhoods are the best that's going to work for you and your loved ones, then stay tuned right here. And today I'm going to go over buying versus renting or renting versus buying within this greater Colorado Springs area. So once again, it's James T with James E Mountain Real Estate. And honestly, we've got so many people that are calling all the time that are interested in coming to this area. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Give me a call, 719-304-9772. Shoot me an email at james.dean@kw.com. Whatever you got to do to get a hold of me, please do it. I would love to help you out and be your realtor within this area. Because once again, remember, I've got your back when moving to the Colorado Springs area. Okay guys, so today we're going to be talking about renting versus buying in the Colorado Springs area, which includes the greater Colorado Springs area all the way up into the Woodland Park and Tulsa County area. So all the commutable places coming down into Colorado Springs, because these numbers all work together and they're all very similar no matter where you live in those two different spots. So first of all, I want to start off with setting up a little background. So we're going to utilize today some very conservative numbers because I don't want you to take the numbers of what's happening in 2021 and apply these out 5, 10, 15 years from now. I'm going to take numbers that work back 10 to 20 years so you can utilize those numbers and actually have a very conservative planning process on this. And this is going to provide you some pretty good numbers that you're going to be pretty surprised with. So one of those is going to be the average rate increase in the United States. And within Colorado, you're looking at a 3 to 5% increase on rent each year. And within Colorado Springs, we're going to go with 5%. I will go on the top end of that, and there's a reason for that. Colorado Springs is in the top 10% of the United States for appreciated real estate value year after year for how much it's appreciated compared to everywhere else in the US. That has a direct impact on rent, and rent has a direct impact on that as we just see that demand continue to increase within this area. It's a highly sought after area. So we're going to go at the 5% of the US average for rate increases within the area. Now, with that being said, we're also going to talk about some specific appreciation values within the Colorado Springs area when we get to owning a home. But first, we're going to start off with what it's going to look like if you rent a home for the next 5 years here within Colorado Springs. Not just the first year, but the next 5 years. I'm going to use some very easy numbers to work with on this. I'm going to start off with a $2,500 a month rent for a single family home. Now that $2,500 a month rent is not unheard of, especially when you're looking for a 3 to 4 bedroom home in a very nice neighborhood. So in a neighborhood that's not necessarily a super expensive neighborhood to live in, but it's a decent neighborhood within the Colorado Springs area. So important pricing point on that also is, and that $2,500 is going to be an easy guide to kind of give you an idea, and you can apply this at any price value with these same percentages and numbers I'm giving to you. You just have to do them on your own. So let's start this off. So first of all, we'll start off with a rent of $2,500 a month. And as we go in year after year, we're going to continue to increase a 5% increase on that annual rent, because as those of you that have rented before know, you're going to sign a contract and we're going to say this one's going to start at $2,500 a month for a year. That's pretty common, pretty standard for a contract on a rental. So with that, you start off $2,500 a year. At the end of those first 12 months, you're at the end of your lease, the end of your contract. It's going to get renegotiated, and a good property management company is going to maintain that on that increase as the value increases of the property. So does the cost of everything else as the value of money increases or decreases actually, and you see inflation going. I'm not going to give a full-on economic class on that, but basic inflation can cause that to continue to go up, as well as just the appreciation of the home also. So we start off with $2,500 a year. Into the first year, going into year 2, you're going to see that first rate increase within your rent, up the additional 5%. And I'm going to cheat just because I'm not able to do this numbers at the top of my head, and I've got them all written down prior. So, and I'll show them on the screen there for you too. So $2,500 a month for that first year. You go into that second year, you're then looking at $2,625 a month. So it went up 5%. So it's another $125 a month that you're looking at that point. Not that big of a deal, right? You're like, oh, you're just seeing a little bit of an increase. But just remember, none of this money is going anywhere for you other than the fact that it's paying for where you're going to live. It's not going into investments. It's not going into taking care of your family in the future. It's doing nothing at all for you other than supplying a place for you and your family, or you by yourself to live in a home with your loved ones or even without your loved ones. It's not doing anything else for you but that. It's just, I mean, shoot, it's just like going out and buying groceries. You go out and buy groceries and you eat the grocery. I mean, that's it, it's done. It's keeping your livelihood going. That's it. It's not doing anything else for you. So end of year 3, you're sitting at $2,756. We've gone up another 5% in that at the end of year 3. At the end of year 4, you're looking at $2,895 at the end of year 4. So you're almost up $400 more a month at this point. And then at the end of year 5, you're looking at $3,039. We'll call it $3,040 just to make it easy. So you're looking at just over a $500 a month increase in 5 years on that same place that you're living in, that you're not getting anything else out of it value-wise other than the fact that you're paying for a place to lay your head and to stay sheltered when you're out of the storms and you're actually at home, which you can call home itself. For an extra $500 a month for that same exact place. You haven't gone up in the type of home you're living in. You're still living in the same place you did at year 1, just now it's year 5, and you're paying an extra $500 a month, which is going to equate to roughly a little over $6,000 a year that you're paying in addition to what you paid the first time, and you're not getting anything else out of it. So that's the first principle that we need to discuss on rents. Rents typically do not stay the same. They're going to increase each year, and you can look back and see what that increase is. And I've got these stats from Google. Just Google them. What's the average rate increase on there? And 3 to 5% is going to pop up again and again and again. And I'm utilizing that on the high end only because we're here in Colorado Springs, and it's going to be even worse this year because of what's happened in 2021. The unfortunate thing is we're not going to find out what's going on rents for another year or two on there. And then we'll see that big increase of what's happened in the price of homes. But when you're seeing homes going up at 1 to 1.4% a month, that's going to have a dramatic increase on what rate increases or rent increases we see. Plus, there's not a whole lot of places to go out there. There's a lot of demand, not a lot of supply. That's also going to cause those to increase as well. So definitely what you want to think about on the rent side. So knowing that, excuse me, I'm sorry, this is the second time I filmed this video because the first time the audio didn't record. So lucky me, I get to do it again. Lucky for you, I love talking through this stuff. So now we're going to talk about our standards that we're going to look at for the purchase price of a house. It's going to have that same exact monthly payment that you would have for that first year rent, that $2,500. And I've got 2 examples for you. I've got one example with a 10% down payment. I got one example for you with a 20% down payment. Now, a 10% down payment or anything less than 20% is going to incur normally from a lender what's called PMI. That's private mortgage insurance. And that private mortgage insurance does nothing to insure you as the borrower. It does everything to insure the lender as the one that's giving you the money to purchase that house. And the reason for it is because you're considered a higher risk if you go into default of not being able to pay off the amount of money that the lender has involved in the house if you're less than 20%. So if we're looking at the 2 home values we're going to look at are going to be $450,000 and $550,000. Now the $450,000 home with a 10% down payment, so that's $45,000, is going to incur a PMI cost of on average about $250. That's with the principal, the interest, and the insurance and taxes that are on it is what's going to put you right at that $2,500. So I'm not going on there and just giving you the principal interest, which a lot of mortgage calculators do. I'm also adding into it what your average taxes and insurance are going to be up here in the state of Colorado as well, in particular in the Colorado Springs area. I did not add in homeowners associations, private owners associations, any of that stuff, because that stuff can vary dramatically based on where you live and what kind of services those offer. I'm just doing the basics on this. So we're looking at a $450,000 home with 10% down. You've got PMI on it of an additional $250 a month. And all that's going to equal that $2,500 a month for that first year. So you're sitting at $2,500 a month mortgage payment for that first year, or mortgage is considered to include everything together on that. And we're going to look at a general appreciation which you can Google this and look this up too. I actually got this from neighborhoodscout.com. So you can look this stuff up. They're pretty common out there as well. In the Colorado Springs area, on average, in the last 10 to 20 years, we've seen an increase in homes and appreciation in the price of homes at 5.48%. Now, that's not including 2021 and the massive increase that we've seen happening during this time frame with this housing boom that we have going on. And I'll talk about more about the housing boom, what I think is causing it, and why we're not going to have a bubble burst as well later on in the video. But right now, what's important for you to know is I'm using very conservative numbers. Excuse me. These numbers placed at where they are with a 5.48% increase on average year after year for the last 10 to 20 years. Long-term investment, right? Mid to long-term, easily on this. Now, those same numbers, if you look 10 years back, 2011 compared to 2021, and it's a little bit different. Let's say we did 2010 to 2020 before we had these massive increases like we have in 2021. There's a 70.54% increase in the value of the homes from 2010 to 2020. 70.48%. That's just an increase in the value. That's not including what you're paying into it within those 10 years towards the principal or the payment on that house. That's also increasing your equity as well. So we're starting to get into a little bit of why this investment looks like it's going to be smart, because you're not just paying for where you're going to live all the time, but you're also paying into an investment for your future as well. That home is going up in value, plus you're paying down on your principal on what you borrowed on the house itself too. So you're getting equity within the house. Big stuff that's working for you in that sense. So, and don't forget, Colorado Springs is in that top 10% for home appreciations within the United States. It's a highly sought after area. So we're using conservative numbers in an area that are actually probably a little bit higher than this if you really wanted to dive deeper into it. And I can do that with you if you want to individually on the phone or through email. So $450,000 home. You're starting off the exact same payment you had for renting that house. No, by the way, that house you're renting is more than likely a $400,000 home for that same payment that you'd be making on a $450,000 home. So you've already got a little bit of disparity in the quality of the home, or the placement of the home, or the size of the home, or the size of the lot, all different types of variables that can make a home actually cost a little bit more by about 50 grand than another home. So that's something to think about too. So you're paying $2,500 a month first year. After that first year, going into the second year, year two, you're still paying the same amount, $2,500 a month, but now you're seeing the value of your home go up that 5.48%. Now it's worth $474,660, almost $25,000, right, in 1 year. And that's an average on there, but that's 1 year of owning that home, $25,000 in that $450,000 home, plus whatever you've paid down principal-wise, which on a 30-year mortgage isn't going to be a whole lot that first year. It's going to increase more and more year after year, and we'll talk about that here in a bit. At the end of year three, or going into year three, your home value then is going to be worth $500,671. That's also going to place you at a home equity amount, which means the portion of the home that doesn't have a loan against it is going to be less than 20%, or more than 20%, excuse me, at that point, which is going to be able to provide the ability for you to hopefully get out of your private mortgage insurance. That extra $250 a month that you've been paying to the bank, basically because you couldn't get a loan for a 20% more down payment on there. That $250 a month goes away. And this is a conversation you need to have with your mortgager, because more than likely you've been a really good client up until then. You know, or all the way through this point, and they're going to want to keep you because they're getting money from you. You're paying your interest on your house. That's how they're collecting their money. Once you reach that point where the value of your home has got 20% of equity in it compared to what you've got borrowed on it, you need to discuss this with your mortgagers, because they'll probably go ahead and get rid of that PMI for you. They get rid of that PMI, that $2,500 a month you were paying for the first 2 years that stayed the same, unlike the rent where within 2 years, you're looking at sitting, at the $2,756 going into that third year. Now you're actually going to go back and how much you're paying, because you're getting rid of that PMI. You're going to lose $250 off that payment, and you're paying $2,250 a month going into that third year. Whereas in the third year of that rent, you're paying $2,756. It's a $500 a month difference. So within 3 years on that one example, you're already at $6,000 less that you're paying each month. On top of that, you're getting appreciation in the home, and you're paying down the principal on the mortgage. and you're getting equity in a house, you're increasing your wealth. You're getting an investment from where you're living. So not only are you just paying for a place that you live and sleep, you're also getting money in the sense of a real estate investment that's building your wealth as well. So it's working for you way more than would it be if you were just renting the home. So let's keep going. So now we go into year 4 at this point. The home is now worth $528,108. And then in year 5, $557,000 and $557,048 is what we're looking at the end of year 5 for that $450,000 home. So $107,000 change, appreciation in value, just using that 5.48% average appreciation that's happened in the last 10 to 20 years with the house itself. Not to mention all the stuff you've been paying down a principal on it too. You've got a lower payment now than you would have if you rented out that other home. Also, you've got a nicer home that you're in, and it's your home. You don't have to worry about somebody increasing the rent on you or deciding to sell the home and making you move. You get to make all those decisions yourself based on what your life events have happened to you and to your loved ones. Let's look at the $550,000 home now. Now this $550,000 home does not have PMI. However, it still does have the principal, the interest, the taxes, and insurance on it. So the property taxes, insurance is still on there also. And the cost, the monthly cost of this home is still going to be at $2,500 a month. That's with a 20% down payment. So you're paying $110,000 down into this, but you're going to have a loan amount that's going to still cause that $2,500 a month rent or mortgage payment in this sense that you would have with that rent that came forward. Now let's go through these numbers. At the end of the first year, you're looking at a $580,140 difference in your home. So it's already gone up $30,000. Going into year 3, you've got $611, $931 worth of wealth. Into year 4, $445,465. And then at the end of year 5, going into year 5, $680,837 is the estimated appreciated value of your home. That's an estimation. Obviously, that's based off the past market in the past 10 to 20 years and what that's shown. But in 5 years, you're still paying the $2,500 a month. And now your home's worth $130,000 more than it was when you bought it 5 years ago. Paying the exact same amount, not to mention all the principal that you would have paid down. And you can go on an amortization table and see exactly what that would be. But that increase would be even higher than what the value is in a home. So instead of living in the same place, renting for that time frame, and then coming out of it with nothing to show for it, absolutely nothing to show for it except for an increase in rent rate, you've now got a $130,000 difference just in appreciated value. If you're paying down principal on it too, which you never would have been doing on a rent, you're also looking at that principal that's also coming back to you as value in the home as well. And that difference in and of itself is probably over $150,000. So in 5 years, paying the same amount of money that you would have in year 1 as a rent, without it increasing year over year like it would as a rent, and going up, $6,000 a year by the time you hit year 5 in that, you've got money that has been working for you and that you now have as wealth that's yours, that you can claim if you decided you needed to or if you wanted to within the house itself. That's an amazing tool and a very powerful tool for you and your family as you go through life. And you continue to build on that, and the home continues to increase in value. And on top of that, you continue to pay down the principal on the home, and you get more and more paid off so that you have less and less in debt on it. And that's on a 30-year mortgage. Some people pay even more aggressive on a 20 or 15-year mortgage. And that's great because you pay it down even quicker, and you pay a lot less interest into those too. So definitely things to look at when it comes to that. And oh, by the way, I'm not even factoring in 2021. 2021 is going to have a negative impact on the rents that you're paying because it's going to increase them dramatically over the next couple of years. But it's going to have an extremely powerful impact if you own a home and it's continuing to go up in value 1 to 1.4% each month. And that's going to slow down eventually. But that stuff continues to go up, and that's just going to continue to increase the value of your house also. So stuff to think about as you're considering the possibility of maybe renting or buying a home right now, for sure. I also have some other stuff that I want to go over with you guys. For one, I don't know about you, but for me, I'm 40 years old, and I can't remember a year working for somebody else that I got a 5% raise that year. I just don't remember it. I know it has happened to some folks, but does it happen year after year after year? If it does for you, great. That's awesome. And you can afford to continue paying that rent if you want to. The only downside is you're not getting anything out of it. You're just paying into somebody else's wealth instead of paying into your own at that point. But for most of us, a 5% raise is pretty significant on there, and we don't see that all the time. So you could actually end up basically pricing yourself out of the same rental that you started off with, you know, if you're not careful and you're not looking towards your future on this. So definitely something to think about on those lines. So I've already gone over a lot, like real estate is an investment. I mean, it 100% is an investment because you're not just paying for the place that you're going to pay for anyways to sleep and live in. You're also increasing your value because you're paying into something that you're receiving stuff back from. Not just the appreciation value of the home, but also you're paying into the principal. And unlike a vehicle that depreciates in value that you're paying down principal on, in a home, as you pay that principal down, you're also increasing in value on average as well. Now, let's go over the market bubble that some people are calling it while we're sitting at this avenue real quick. And I'll go over a little bit. I'll have a whole nother session that I talk about, are we in a real estate bubble or not? And I do not believe that we are. And here's my reasoning behind it as I go over a quick synopsis on this. Do I think that this is like the 2008 bubble at all? When we saw in 2006, 2007, prices were just going astronomical and then pop, there it went. Nope. Because what happened back in that time frame was it was poor lending decisions from poor investments on banks that were doing arms and all kinds of issues that was causing those loans to come to a point where they were calling them due on these big balloons. People weren't able to afford them. And as that happened across the board, we saw the value in homes dip. So people couldn't just sell them and get rid of them. They ended up going into foreclosure. And this caused a ripple effect that we're still feeling to this day, 13 years down the road. And I say that because what we saw happen during 2008 also had a dramatic effect on new builds from 2010 to about the 2013 timeframe. When on average, we were seeing within the United States at that point in time, you know, right around like 2,000 new builds a year throughout the United States it was happening. Doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when you factor in large metropolitan areas, it actually is quite a bit. And when you pull that out for 3 to 4 years, you're looking at 6,000 to 8,000 new builds that were supposed to be coming online to help with the increase in population as millennials became old enough to start buying homes, and that never happened. And when we came into 2020, 2021 timeframe, we reached a pinnacle and a breaking point for what we currently had on market with the United States. Builders have not been able to come back and catch back up to that. They've been very hesitant to put themselves out there because they got crushed pretty hard from that 2008 debacle. And so now what we've seen is this huge increase in demand with a very small supply. And we just don't see enough of what's coming into it. And what that's done is caused the prices to increase. We're seeing lots of buyers with not very many sellers out there. So it's that supply and demand is another example with that. You know, it's going to continue to push it up. We've seen a drop in the interest rates to historic lows, and we are starting to see a little increase. But I mean, there were people buying back in the 80s. They were in the double digits on interest rate. People were still buying homes. Nobody stopped buying homes. You just couldn't afford as much of a home during that time frame. So even if we do see those interest rates come back up, people are still going to be buying homes. It's just going to affect on how much home they can afford. So we'll see some people kind of back off. Instead of seeing like 10 people looking at one listing, you might see 6 looking at that listing because it knocks some of those folks off because they can no longer afford that area of a home, and it's going to make it more competitive down towards the lower end. That all being said, doesn't matter how hard and how fast all these builders are continuing to build with the lack of inventory that we have for supplies as well, lumber, anything that you can consider building cost wise, we're having a hard time getting a hold of now. A lot of that's because of COVID, and it's going to take a while to gain that back. That's keeping them from being able to go as fast as they'd like to, but also the fact that they're running out of lots that are already subdivided and they're scrambling the land that they do own with the current cities that they have, trying to get those other large pieces of land subdivided in zones so they can actually build subdivisions on them, and then having the labor force, which is difficult to grab right now too, as well as those materials to actually try to increase the amount of homes they can build. So with all that being said, we're not going to see something change over the next year or two. So those folks that are out there saying, oh, I'm just going to rent for a couple of years, I'll wait for the market to come down before I'm going to buy something. Good luck. You're basing your guess off bad information or no information. So do the research on this and look at the numbers that I'm giving you. Do the research on your own. You can find this stuff on Google on your own if you do the research. And if you don't want to do that and you want me to give you my sources, I will give you my sources. Just reach out to me and I will show you this stuff so that you can see what's happening. Because I don't want you to make an uninformed decision based on rumors from somebody that doesn't know what they're doing professionally, or just guesses of what's happening out there, or people being emotional about the fact, oh, it's so expensive, it's so expensive. Well, the longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to get. Because if we go back and we look at the historical trends of real estate over the last 30 to 40 years, real estate always goes up at an angle. Sometimes you'll see a plateau, and we might see a plateau eventually with this, but with the supply being what it is, I don't think we're going to see much of a plateau. We might see a little bit less of an angle, but it's still going to keep going up. But we'll just go with historical trends on this. You'll see it go up, you'll see it plateau, and then it'll keep increasing. If you're sitting here and you're thinking that the same properties that you're seeing up for sale right now, if they were still around, and if they were around in the 50s and 60s, that they would be anywhere near the value they are now compared to the way they were back then, you would not be talking intelligently on that. I mean, look at the value of things, how much they've gone up in value since that time frame. So sometimes we do see a dip. In 08 we saw that, but we see that take right back off again. And we're already well over what those values were back in 08 when that was a bubble that burst during that time frame. So when you're looking at investing in real estate or buying a home in real estate, which is in essence investing in that real estate, you need to be thinking more mid to long term on that, 5+ years, because you're going to see if something happens in that time frame that's considered negative. And in a way, time is going to take care of that very rapidly. You don't lose money in that property until you sell it, and you sell it for less than what you purchased it for, or for the same amount that you purchased for. That money is not gone until you actually go out there and sell it. If you hold on to that property and you continue to live in it, it will continue to go back up again. I promise you that. History shows us that. Statistics show us that. So please know that when you're looking at those numbers. Also, as a renter, you're looking at a continuous uphill battle because rent's always going to increase because property values are increasing, especially in an area like Colorado Springs, where folks are moving in all the time. So it's not just kids becoming of age and then buying homes. People are moving here too. It's increasing exponentially, and that's going to continue that uphill battle as a renter that you're never going to be able to pull out of unless you finally buy your own home. Along with that, let's see. The risk included was short-term versus long-term in buying real estate. So if you're buying short-term, and it's just like the stock market, if you're going into something short-term on a stock market or in real estate, you're looking at a lot more risk of the value of your home changing in a negative way than if you were to look mid to long-term. Because just like I talked about the statistics on what a home's going to do, as we look at that stuff and the value of that stuff, as it is increased over history, as long as you own the home for a good amount of time, you're going to see that increase. It's going to happen. I mean, you're looking at a 10-year difference of 70.5%. I mean, really, in the value of a home from 2010 to 2020. I mean, holy cow. So, and that's just 10 years. You don't have to own the home for 40, 50 years. That's 10 years of a difference in that, with an average increase of 5.48% each year over year on average. So yeah, we'll have our bad years and we'll have our great years. And 2021 has been a great year for home values. So really go through this stuff and think through this. I want you guys to be really careful as you go through this, and please reach out, ask questions. I want you to make sure that you are informed of what you're going into. I'm not going to hold on to all the answers so I can be the Mr. Know-It-all walking you through, oh, look at me, I'm Mr. Real Estate Agent, I've got all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but I am going to educate you as you go through this process, because I want you to know what you're getting into and to be an educated investor going into real estate. I don't want you going into blind. This is a lot of money that you're investing into this. I'm a professional real estate agent that's here to help advise you and where you're going to invest that money for the future, because that's exactly what you're doing when you're buying a home. You're investing it into the future on that. And I want to make sure that you are taken care of to that point. I'm not a discount broker. I don't give you discount service. I give you quality on top of the line service. So as you're going through this process, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask me questions. Remember, I'm James Dean with James Dean Mountain Real Estate. I'm one of your top brokers out here in this area, and I would love to have your back as you're moving to the greater Colorado Springs metropolitan area or into the Teller County and Woodland Park area. And once again, stay tuned. I've got videos coming out every week, podcasts coming out every week. And if you are on that podcast, don't forget to take a look at the videos too, because they're going to show you some stuff, some videos of the area around you and some homes and what you can expect. So make sure you're watching that stuff also. Until next time, I can't wait to see you again.